one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight we are having a workshop. One of the reasons we're doing the workshop this evening is we've got so much on the agenda. I know a few people have questioned that we do our meetings once a month. The whole purpose of the once a month meeting was that there are a lot of times that we don't have anything to talk about, and we thought that it made more sense to add meetings as needed, and that's why we added this meeting. So tonight we're going to go through a lot of items. We're going to have open discussions about them. I don't think there's really going to be any decisions made tonight, but there's just going to be a lot of open discussion because we want to make sure that the public feels comfortable with everything that we're doing and the processes that we're having. So tonight we're going to start the workshop with kind of our current council referrals and priorities. And, right now we have quite a few, and I'm just going to read them and then we'll stop and talk about each one. We've got the item commentary, the 9/16/25 meeting minutes, the comprehensive plan rezoning, the create water quality shoreland ordinance, the pop-up business ordinance, the update public safety ordinance, the village transportation project, and the policy review, and last but not least, the mooring ordinance. So what I'd like to do is just kind of let the council start with which one of those. I don't care which order we go in. And we don't have to talk about all of them, but I know that a lot of us had comments and questions about them. So I'm going to open it up to anyone and let them bring up which one they want to talk about first and go from there.
Top down?
Top down, we can do that too. All right, so the first one we have is the item commentary, which is the town council list of priorities. And we've reviewed and endorsed the council during prior retreats, and we've been looking at these for quite a few years now. There's an exhibit attached if anybody wants to look at it, what we talked about at the last one. So I'll open it up to talk about that. If does anybody have any comments or questions about the council retreat, what we talked about, and are we doing what we said we would do?
I wasn't there, so I'll pass it on to me.
I don't have all the items in front of me. I think we are doing some of them. I would say we're not doing all of them.
Okay. All right. Ann, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the Village Transformation Project because that's something that's been on the, on the radar for a long time now, coming on 14 years. Not in its current form, of course, but just efforts to revitalize the village and improve bike and pedestrian safety. I think people may or may not be aware. I just want them to let them know that we were not able to make the deadline for this next round of build grant, USDOT, Department of Transportation build grant funding, and so we're gonna have to do it again next year. We've got some work to do between now and then. One thing people should be aware of, and is that we're going to, in March, going to have a sort of a public meeting and hearing about the current design and look for input on that, and with the hopes that we can move forward toward getting voter approval for a bond for our share of the portion of the cost on the June ballot. To be just I know we've got a lot to cover tonight. I just want to very quickly let people know that the build grant would let us would get us 80% of the cost of funding. Sorry.
That's okay. Take your
All
time.
right, take your time.
Well, we should go
80%
now.
of the cost of funding from the feds, 20 from the state, and we'd only have to kick in, I'm sorry, 10 from the state. We'd have to kick in 10.
And what I'm thinking about is this, is that that was not, that's later on here. So let's give you a break for a second, and if it's okay with you, I definitely want to talk about it. It's like 8th on the list of attachments. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So let's give you a little break, and let's get back to that, because it's something that I want to talk about as well. So the first one on here was item commentary, referrals, the 9/16 meeting minutes. I didn't have anything on any of those. What I wanted to go to was the comprehensive plan rezoning, unless anybody else wanted to talk about those first two attachments. Is everyone okay with that?
Yep.
All right. So let's go to the one that was the plan rezoning. The referral address was the town council priorities pertaining to the plan rezoning. And that was part of design standards for the village and village proper, to review the contract zones, review buffer requirements, to provide greater flexibility to the planning board, update open space subdivision ordinances, and the planning staff has been diligently working on the initiative, has been providing any updates to the town council at these various stages. I think I saw Tammy here. Tammy? Do you have any updates on, on the rezoning, that you could add to this?
Yeah, I can add that we've been working, Kristen and I have been working on several changes that we are required by law to implement under state law by July 1st, so we have deadlines for that. Through that process, some of the changes, I know that the Ordinance Advisory Committee has been active in looking at some other proposals, and we're working on some of those. And then there's been a few issues that we've identified. There's clerical cleanup, there's, consistency in language cleanup, and then there's a few changes in there that, to hopefully correct problems in some of the developments that we've had recently, to not occur again in the future. So, and then other than that, I know that I don't know if this is a good time for you, Britt, but I know that she's been working on a codification process as well, and can speak to that better than I can regarding the, I believe, streamlined process of the ordinances. Does that answer you?
Yeah, and before she gets up on the LD 2003, is there anything you can comment on that?
There's going to be a lot. It's the LD 2003 was the one that we were dealing with last year. This, right now, it's LD 1829, and there's quite a bit about that. I mean, I don't know how much you'd want to get into that right now, but basically that's the 5,000 square foot lot proposal. There's multiple things that go along with that, which basically means that pretty much what it says is that if you can bring public water into a site, then you can have a private septic system of a certain size, and you can have a 5,000 square foot lot not in a designated growth area.
Okay.
So basically, it's pretty simple. I mean, it's complicated, but the easiest way to explain it, you can bring public water in.
Yep.
You have an engineered system of 2,000 GPM or more, which is what we have here.
Okay.
Say it serves 5 houses. You bring those two things in, all of those 5 houses can have a 5,000 square foot minimum lot size.
Okay.
But as of right now, we don't have to change our frontages and our setback requirements. So it's really difficult to get a lot with 5,000 square feet to have 250 feet of road frontage. As of right now, we're not required to change any of those requirements. So in order to meet our current requirements of, like, say, 50-foot front, 50-foot rear, you're looking at somewhere around probably a 15,000 at this point, maybe, to meet all of those.
Okay.
I mean, there's a minimum number out there right now, I'm sure that somebody knows. If in the future they say you have to do this, and it's all going to be until there's litigation around it, and when I say litigation, I don't mean with the town of Gray.
Yep.
I mean throughout the state. There's going to be a lot of litigation. Then we'll find out more about, all right, we're saying you have to have 5,000 square feet, you got to do setbacks to allow it. As of right now, but we don't.
And just so the general public knows, what what's the reasoning behind this? What is the state trying to do?
Affordable housing.
Affordable housing, okay.
Yeah, the other thing they're changing, there's multiple changes that are coming where you can now have an accessory dwelling unit attached to a commercial building.
Okay,
You can now have an accessory dwelling unit attached to a duplex.
okay,
In some cases, you can have more than one accessory dwelling unit with a single family. And there's another thing that's in there that multifamily development was triggered by 3 units or more, which was prohibited, say in RRA. That's also changing. And Kristen and I actually asked our lawyer about more specifics about that. And so we did find out that that is another change that will be incorporated and will be coming in front of you.
all right, and Section 8 housing was always tied to septic. Is this gonna allow for Section 8 to come in, or is it just gonna be able to create more affordable housing?
What do you mean it was always tied to septic?
Well, my understanding is that to qualify for these grants and everything going on, Ann may know more about this than I do, is that, to be able to have, affordable housing along with Section 8 housing, you had to have public sewer and public water. And, this new one sounds like you may not have to have public, but I see Ann with a hand raised, so I'm gonna let her answer that.
Yeah, well, I don't know anything about the affordable housing having to have public sewer. I don't think you do because we have it here.
Okay.
This is not just affordable housing, though. This is any housing.
Okay.
Any development.
Right.
Ann?
Yeah, I would just add that Section 8, I don't think has very much money at all to develop new Section 8 housing. There's a voucher program that like private landlords can, people who are approved to use Section 8 vouchers can go to private landlords and negotiate rental of those units. But then also, primarily the big driver for new affordable housing is the low-income housing tax credit. And some other programs that the state offers. So, it's not Section 8, and Tammy's absolutely right. This is not, the state is concerned about building more housing across the board, not just affordable housing. So any housing would qualify for this.
Right, and so just to follow up with what Ann said, now I have a condominium development in North Yarmouth that is, say, 12 units. 4 of those units are affordable housing units. And this is privately owned, privately developed, being sold. And so there's the public housing that you're referring to, Mike, but then there's, like Ann said, there's also tax credits and different things that developers can get, but for building affordable units. But this is all just about developing housing, whether it's for you and I, or whether it's for affordability, or, whatever it is. So.
And my last question, and I know Vinny's got a question too, is what is affordable housing? What is that defined as?
It's not an easy definition because I remember I went through this a little bit somewhat with the town manager in North Yarmouth because there's very specific income guidelines and it's based on where considered the greater Portland area. So what we would consider affordable incomes is well beyond what most people would consider affordable incomes because some of the guidelines that I was looking at were up to $150,000 a year in incomes of 1 to 2 people. I mean, it was a much higher number than what traditionally I would consider as low income or affordable. And the units were around like $450,000, which was $100,000 under the market value, but I don't know how those calculations work. It's pretty complicated.
Okay.
And they work with Portland Housing Authority to be able to do that.
Okay.
Figure those things out.
It's broadly, affordable housing is defined as housing that's affordable to people at 80% of area median income.
Okay.
So that's always been the broad stance.
All right, thank you. I think, Vinny, you had a question or a comment?
I have 2. Do you want to comment at all on what we're working on for the Ordinance Advisory Committee with regards to the LD 1829?
Well, one of the things that, the only way that a town can have any sort of local control over this, over a state mandated lot size. As of right now, basically the town can still implement a growth ordinance.
Oh, wow.
And there's specific laws around how you do that and how it's structured. And so that's one of the things that I know in other communities, they have those in place. And that's something that we're in the process of looking at with the Ordinance Advisory Committee. Again, and it's mainly because we don't know what that number is. And I don't know what that number is. You know, I don't know if there is a way to configure a 5,000 or 8,000 square foot lot to meet all these different things legally, and they can squeeze 600 units into some place where you normally would be allowed 100. I don't know. And so the only way to sort of stall that process is to implement that sort of ordinance so that you have some sort of local control to see what happens over the next year.
So the other thing is, so Scarborough has, I don't know if they had passed it, but they had written a resolution to oppose LD 1829. Basically, they're asking legislators to basically repeal or delay the implementation until the legislator could go in and fix some of the things that really should be corrected with regards to this. And it's kind of basically I was saying, should we look to support Scarborough and do something similar? It's more of a join other communities, and if enough communities join, maybe they'll do something. And I was wondering if we should just, it's more, ceremonial than anything, but should we put something out and kind of copy what they're doing, just to say, hey, could you take another look at this? And maybe if enough people do it, maybe they'll revisit.
I mean, I think if the council chooses to do that, that's your choice. And if you want to support other communities, I would not stall or cease anything that we're working on moving forward. Because the other thing that right now, from what I understand, is they're in the process of doing the rulemaking, which when that rulemaking is done, they could come back and say, all right, towns, we told you have to allow 5,000 square feet. You have to come up with setbacks that allow a 5,000 square foot lot, which means you're going to be greatly reducing your required setbacks and your required road frontages.
I'm thinking more of like the multi-prong approach. So we'll keep doing that, and then we'll do this. And
Yeah, I mean, that's your decision as a council if you choose to do that. And
what do you? I mean,
Yeah, I haven't looked at it yet, and, we've been dealing with a lot of stuff, so, yeah, I'd like to look at it, but I'm open to it.
All right.
Definitely. I do have a question, though. How does that, affect, shoreline zoning?
shoreline zoning is exempt from
Okay,
that. It does
all right.
not. So even though, you can't have ADUs in shoreland you can't now and you can't in the future.
Okay.
So shoreline's basically exempt. That's a protected zone.
Okay.
That comes out of all of that stuff.
Okay. All right. Any other questions?
no. I'm going to go look to pull that up, and I'll find it, and I'll supply it to everybody to take a look at, and then we can kind of go from there.
That would be great. Thank you so
Okay,
much,
thanks.
Tammy.
Thank you.
All right. Next one is it the create? Oh, come on. This thing went dead. Sorry about that. Is it the create water quality ordinance? Is that the next one?
Yep.
All right. Does anybody have any comments or questions or updates on where we're at with that?
Leanne has her hand raised.
Oh, Ann, go for it. Sorry.
Sorry. The Resiliency Committee has asked for time at a workshop in March, at one of our March meetings, the first meeting in March, or if we meet again, could do it then, but just to, present it to the council. So it would be done in workshop initially, and then we would, depending on response to the council, we would either come back at a future meeting for, approval, or we would tinker with it and then bring it back.
Okay.
But that's kind of where we are. It's in process.
Okay, yeah, I did see the email today, and I know I haven't had a chance to talk to Vince about the schedule, and which we need to do this evening at some point or tomorrow, but we will get it on there. Any other comments about the water quality ordinance? Okay. The pop-up business ordinance is the next one. Again, I know this has been on here since we, as far as I know, since I've started, and nothing's ever been done about it. And do you know what the deal was with the pop-up ordinance and what the thought process is on this?
I'm sorry, I don't really recall. It's been long enough that I don't remember who pushed this. It wasn't me. I mean, I think it's not a bad idea to, you know, to have that kind of thing, but I don't know what the demand for it is at this point. It seems kind of lower priority to me, unless somebody's really anxious to have us do it.
Okay, and Tammy's gonna, I think, comment on it. So-
Yeah, we did, I did have a local business owner approach me over the last year to revisit this ordinance. And basically, the idea behind it is like, it's almost like, it's not asking to have like, I think they're like commissary kitchens, which basically, they do them in Portland, where like, if you own a push cart,
Yep.
okay, like Lonnie's Dogs, right? Well, there's 100 of them in Portland, 1,000 of them. You have to have a licensed base station, which is basically a licensed kitchen that you operate out of, that you prepare all your food to put on your cart and, you know, hold it. So basically, there are kitchens in Portland that multiple vendors rent and share. And they sign up for different time slots for when they go in and prepare their food. And so they're all licensed by the state of Maine. So what this local person wants to do is take a place that's currently vacant and have a pop-up business for like a couple weeks. And it could be like an old establishment, an older place, from what I understand, that closed, you know, like the Village Cafe that used to be in Portland, or something that was like a, you know, like a landmark, and then have that open for a couple weeks, and then boom, close, and then another business come in. Or somebody comes in with, you know, a food truck one weekend, or there's an outside, you know, a restaurateur from up north that comes down and wants to open up shop for like a month. That's what the concept is. It's basically, it's not one business, it's, you know, multiple restaurants, and so it's food service related, it's, you know, basically the base is licensed, and then whoever comes in, you know, to rent the space would be the restaurant of the month or whatever.
So it's not like a Spirit Halloween, it's all food related, okay. And what do we do now when that happens?
Well, the only thing that we would do is if they were a licensed push cart that wanted to come in and sell on public property, I believe that there's a process that the clerk issues, and they deal just with the clerk. They would have to be licensed through the state of Maine.
Okay.
A licensed, you know, through DHS. But Britt can talk about that process that she does.
Okay. And my only question before Britt gets up is that, is it already covered? Is this a redundant? If we've already, you know, because one of the things that my goal is to kind of go through this and get rid of a lot of it, or condense it and update it. So do we already have ordinances that cover it, or do we need a specific one for this?
I think that we would need a specific one for this, because basically, usually the license goes with the establishment.
Okay.
And if you have we don't have a local food code, it's governed by the state of Maine.
Okay.
And so usually the state of Maine, you know, we don't have a local mobile vending cart ordinance, say where, you know, in Portland, like we have our own health code there. We had our own push cart, mobile cart licensing process and inspection process. We don't have anything like that here. So basically, there's no ordinance to cover this type of business right now.
Okay. All right, makes sense. Do you want to get up and? Yeah.
So we have a mobile vendor ordinance right now where anyone who has a food truck, if they're in a location for more than 3 days, they go through an application process. Right now, if they're a food truck for less than 3 days, they can go about as they please. The ordinance, there's a lot larger process for that. So like our friend Lonnie at Lonnie Dogs, he has to go through the mobile vendor application. He has that one place. It's for the food truck. It's that mobile vendor. It does not cover other things. So the pop-up temporary business would be for things like selling certain merchandises, including foods, goods, products, like a farmer's market sort of deal. We do have the farmer's market that we do license, and that does go between Tammy and myself. But it would just give them more options to allow similar types of businesses. Because right now our current ordinances are pretty restricted.
Can't we just tie it all into one thing, though? I mean, do we have to have 12 to, that's all I'm thinking. Can we just have like one ordinance that covers this, 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 and this? Would that make sense?
So there is a couple proposed revisions that we have been working on
Okay.
that would incorporate that.
Okay, you'll bring those forward when you guys are done for that. Okay. All right, and my goal is tonight is to go through these and either move them forward or get rid of them, because they've been sitting there for a while. All right, thanks.
And how do you protect, like, I'll give you an example, like, by Napa over here, once in a while in the summer, there'll be a truck and somebody selling lobsters, but yet we have a seafood place down the street and they're paying taxes and doing all the other stuff. Like, how do you combat something like that?
Poor Tammy's getting her workout today.
Yeah, give me your workout today, Tammy.
I'm gonna chair right here.
Just
You can just come right up here and hang out with us.
As far as like somebody selling lobster, say at the end of their driveway or farm
Well, I'm
stands.
thinking like this
Napa.
person happened to be set right up in the Napa. He knows what I'm saying.
Used to be, yeah.
Used to be,
Yeah, well, they
Labor Day
could be there,
weekend,
just,
Fourth of July.
they could be there, not allowed, but people like lobstering and farm stands and even some locally made like soaps and foods, those are governed by, those are under like the food sovereignty laws which regulate farmers. And farmers through the state of Maine are in a protected category, in a protected class due to the sensitivity of us losing that source that we have. And so they are subject to different regulations, which they're allowed to sell food, where you see all those little farm stands with the vegetables and the soaps and candles. They're allowed to sell their own goods and products on their own property. I mean, I've read the state law around it. I haven't read it in a long time, but there are different laws that allow different leniencies for that classification of people, because of, the possibility that we would lose that valuable resource that we have in the state.
But is that only on their property, or can they do it another? Like I'm just.
It's usually only on their property,
Like,
but
I'm just using the Napa.
but I can't answer that for sure because, but that person could own that property. They could be
Yeah.
part of the LLC. I don't know, but I know enough about it to be dangerous. It's nothing I regulate or deal with, but I have read the food sovereignty laws because those do come into play with what you're allowed to have on your personal property as well for livestock and what you're allowed to grow yourself, whether it's animals or vegetables for your own food. And it's all under the farming and food sovereignty laws.
And I think, Britt, you had a question or comment?
So we do have an ordinance regarding food sovereignty. It is currently chapter 602. And it does describe Title 7, which goes through the local food. And the first line is provide access of local food through direct producer to consumer transactions. So that's where your fishermen can sell directly to the consumer.
Okay, well, I have a question, I think, where Vinny was going with this. So somebody who pays taxes, owns property, has a business, then somebody can just pop in and take business away from that person. How do we protect the person who's paying taxes, owns property, from somebody just popping in and stealing business from that person?
I don't know if you can under the law. We'd have to ask our attorney.
I
I mean, if
if
they've got a certain license through the state, most likely, this is what I'm thinking, is that if they're a certain agricultural license through the state, they fall under that, be the consumer to producer direct sale. And if they're pulling in next to somebody else that's a landowner and competing with them, I don't know if we can, but that would be something that we would want to consult the town's attorney to see if we could even do.
So a
under state
pop-up
law.
business is just 3 days, you come in, you can set up in 3 days and move on.
The person that reached out to me wanted to mainly do food service.
Right.
So, and whether it would be a week at a time, a month at a time. But as Britt said, it could also be a pop-up, like pottery selling business or glass blowing business or, some sort of, usually they're along the sides of more of like in the food service, local artist type of business, but I guess it could be anything in theory.
Well, I just think we should have something in an ordinance to protect the people who are paying taxes on properties, and just have somebody fly in town and start taking money away from them. So that's all, I think, what Vinny was talking about with the lobsters. There's a seafood place just down the street. he owns property, pays taxes, and this guy's just gonna pop in with his pickup truck and take money away from that guy.
Right.
So is there any ordinance that covers that?
It's not right now.
Okay, so maybe we need to look into that.
You would have to look into it.
Okay.
He had really good prices on lobsters, so.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
All right.
what you'd want to do is you would want to look into see if you could require locally some sort of licensing, whether it would be legal through state law or not, and not necessarily that they have to have a fee, because that would protect the people that are selling at the end of their driveways and, the end of on their own property that they own. It would protect them from competition coming in.
Okay.
But we would have to vet that through our legal process.
All right.
Okay.
That's something we need to check into.
All right.
Thank you, Tammy. So, anybody else on that one? All right. Moving on to the public safety ordinance. We're going to actually look at a lot of these tonight, but this one was specifically up here. Before we get into it, does anybody else have any, again, Anna, I apologize, but you've been on here the longest. Do you know why that this popped up in the first place? And you're on mute, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking, I think the public safety ordinance had to do with, emergency response. That's kind of my recollection. And the resiliency committee has been sort of, we've been meeting with the fire chief and the Gloucester's representatives and the chair of the resiliency committee and I have been meeting for a number of months now, just to sort of think about what, kind of how we can improve emergency response and as a community, but we haven't, we haven't looked at the ordinance specifically. And I think the resiliency committee is going to be at its next meeting considering the priorities for the coming year. So we may be back to you on this.
Okay, and I know that we're going to be, actually, why don't we just kind of skip to your conversation right now, Britt, about what we are doing with the ordinances. I know we're going to talk about it a little bit further, but since some of this stuff is on here now, do you want to kind of make a comment of what we're doing?
Yes. So the town of Gray has contracted with a third-party vendor called General Code. They are a very large municipal codification management firm. They cover almost all 50 states. They have accounts in almost all 50 states. They have several accounts in Maine. They've partnered with several of our surrounding communities as well. What they do is they go through and they codify all of our ordinances, and what that means is they review all of the language, they put it into the same format. They look for any sort of clerical errors. They will compare our codes to, they'll check it for consistency, compliances, compare it to state statutes, see where we're lacking. They go through and they do a lot of that heavy lifting for us. And once they do that, then they provide us with a whole list of items to review and research and questions to answer. So they're going through all of our ordinances as it is right now. So.
Okay. And when was it, because I know I'm going to get questions, and I like this, but when was this decision made? What was the cost of it? And what's the time frame?
So I can pull up the cost. So this was decided last, I want to say, it was last year. I don't know the exact date. 1 second. And it is.
We can get back to that if
I'll
you
get
want to
back to
research that. That's fine. Yeah,
I'll pull that up and talk about it at the next
Okay,
portion.
yeah, because it's coming up. I just thought since it's here. All right, awesome. So, because we're going to cover a lot of the ordinances here in a little bit, let's pop down to the Village Transformation Project. And I know, Ann, you've got a lot to say about this. One thing I would like to say, Ann, before you jump in is that this was something that was voted on by the town quite a few years ago. And the process has been taking quite a while, good or bad. I'm wondering, Ann, would it make sense to kind of update the whole project, like kind of, bring it back to, today. These are the steps, this is what you can do. Because I think there's a lot of misconceptions, like for a good example is that, 300 trees. Some people want trees, some people don't want trees. Is there a way for us to update this whole project and say, okay, this is the scope, but you can do this, and this is what the state will cover? Can we kind of, compartmentalize it and update it? How would it work? And actually,
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly what you have in mind, but I mean, the sort of just a quick process overview is that if we have TIF money that will pay for part of our 10%, but share, but we're going to have to bond for a portion of it. I can't tell you how much now because the cost estimates haven't been completed yet. But if in order to be ready to apply in the next round, which late fall is when the applications usually are released, and then you apply maybe in February or something like that as a deadline. We would need to have voter approval in June of that bond because we have to make a commitment to that process. So any changes that we make between now and the end of March or early April, when excuse me, the warrants get written and prepared, so some changes can be made, but a wholesale change will knock this back another year. And I'll just point out that as we've seen in the last 6 or 7 years, things aren't getting cheaper, and our storm drains are 50 to 60 years old and they're actively failing. The storm drains are an impediment. Whether they're bad for the town. Periodically, there's sinkholes that appear in the streets, and that the Public Works Department has to patch. It's an impediment to economic development as well.
Absolutely. And I was wondering if we could put together a cheat sheet. And what I mean by a cheat sheet is this, is just a list of things that are going to be covered, the approximate cost, what the state pays, what TIF money pays, and what we have to come up with, and then also a timeline. And I know it's all going to be a rough estimate because, one of the things that I hear complaints about a lot is this village center and just what a mess it is in the traffic. So I think, I think there's a lot of people that think it's this or people that think it's that. I think before I feel comfortable voting on it, I would like to know just kind of a condensed cheat sheet that we all could it's not going to be perfect, it's not going to fit everybody, but is that something we could work on, Ann, so that we could, present it to the people to kind of remind everybody of why it's important and what we're doing?
Yeah, the top grade does have a web page that's devoted to this, and people are free to look at that at any time, and that'll get you a long way there in terms of the design and the sort of vision for it, and some of the specifics. Some things have changed since then, so that's not completely up to date. I think we could put together some sort of cheat sheet, but again, that March meeting, which is scheduled, I think, Denise, help me, is this for March 4th? Is intended to bring people up to date. Okay. But I do want to point out that there has been significant public involvement in this plan. And so I think it's a disservice to all the people who have, who came out to previous meetings and gave their input to say, we need to scrap the plan and start over. Basically, that's a way to ensure that nothing will ever happen. And I think, will this ever be perfect? No. We don't have enough money to make it perfect, and there's limitations. Like we have 5 major roads converging on a small, village, and so that's something we're not going to be able to change, but we can improve it. And this is important not just for Gray, but for the region, because we have thousands and thousands of people commuting through the village every single day, and and I think this is something that really needs to get done I would be adamantly opposed to anything that delayed this yet another year. I mean, it's been years that we've been working on this, and as the council, and not just not just me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you. I just want people to, because it has been years, I want to make sure people understand what it is, because I'm afraid people are now thinking it's something else, or it's not this or not that. So I want to make sure that we can move forward with these programs, but I'm afraid if they have either a misconception or the wrong information. So if there's anything I can help you with to get the data out there, and I think to really push that March meeting is important, I just think that, and obviously the more data we have for that March meeting about cost and timeframes, I've heard the project's going to take anywhere between 3 to 5 years. Is that true? And I'm not asking for you to answer that right now. I'm just saying those are things that I think we need to be prepared to answer. Okay?
Absolutely, and we are not in charge of the estimating. The state is. They're doing the project management and they're working with the engineers now. But the other key point I want to make is they will not proceed. The state will do the application for us, but they will not proceed if the town of Gray has not committed to being part of this. And part of that commitment is the voters approving the bond. And so, that's why we don't have time into the fall to continue the tinkering with the design and changing things a lot. It's really got to happen in the next, 6-8 weeks.
No, I understand, and like I said, it's not up to us. We just need to make sure we give the best information so the town people can make a decision. Yes, Denise?
I've been working with Ernie Martin at Maine DOT, and we got a schedule, just came in the email today, like around 3 p.m. It's a full schedule about how long it's going to take,
Okay.
when the grant deadlines are, the 3-year, 4 to 5 year build out. The other thing on the March 4th meeting is an open house. That's when the public can come in, take a look at the pictures, talk with DOT engineers and the architects, and provide input and on whether we want to scale it back or continue with the momentum. And then lastly, TIF monies can pay for this. And right now, at the current bill at 31 million, it's about 3.1 that we would be responsible for. And that's just a priority decision, and it would need to be on the warrant article. But
Okay.
we're moving right along, and we're going to be meeting with the landowners whose properties are impacted by the back road, connector road.
One thing that would be really helpful, Denise, is that if we could have an estimate of, what it would cost the town folks if the state isn't involved and we're just going to fix the intersection, what would that cost the town with nothing else, with no sewers, no anything else? How much would it cost to do that? I think it would be good for and the time frame as well, because people need to know either what the cost is, and my concern is if we don't do something like this, and it's going to cost us $5 million to get nothing other than a little bit of a different pattern, traffic pattern. Does that make sense? So the more information, the better, and we can let the town people make their own decisions. Any other discussion about this for now?
Yeah, I was on the call for this, so I have quite a few discussions about this. So basically, the guy from DOT, what was his name,
Ernie Martin.
he said that the public is in control of this project. So if you're in favor for it, you guys need to come out to the meetings and say you're in favor for it. If you don't want this project, you need to push back against it, and DOT will walk away. I think 50% of this project is good, 50% of it is unnecessary. It's my personal opinion. I think, did you bring up that we should have it laid out in
Yeah, so while you finish, I'll go for mine.
So I think they need to lay out how much it would cost without the trees, how much it would cost without doing the cutouts in the Route 100, heading up Lewiston Road. Yarmouth Road definitely needs to be fixed. The sewer isn't part of this. That is an added fee for the town. What else was there?
Well, you finish on.
I think the intersection up by the Thai restaurant, that definitely can be fixed. The intersection by Dunkin' Donuts can be fixed. Moving down the intersection down by Portland Road, those tractor trailers aren't gonna be able to make those cuts. So that is literally narrowing out the intersection too much, and that needs to be looked at. So like I said, the public needs to come to this, put in their 2 cents worth, and that'll move forward with this project. Vinnie?
Yeah, so I think for the most part, I think we can agree that some changes are absolutely needed. That being said, I'm still hoping we can quantify to what extent, and so I'm looking forward when they come down again in March. Obviously, this is a massive project for our town, needs to be well thought out. When I asked them, Mike, they estimated it at 2.5 years, so maybe it's longer, but I said, if you break ground, how long? So it's 2.5 years. You know, my concern is also with several other large expenditures that we may have coming up, that some may be not aware of. I just want to make sure that, we don't see some spike in our mill rate. Ernie did say he would break the cost down. He said, how much for this intersection, how much for the trees, how much, and we're supposed to get a breakdown of that. You got to remember, the town, if there are overrides, think about the big dig in Boston, if there are overrides, we are on the hook for 10% of the overrides. There's also some final drawings that they said wouldn't be covered, and that's probably about another $300,000 in addition we're on the hook for. And I don't know, Denise, if with regards to the property, do we need to purchase any property, or we just need to get the right of way? And if we did do any purchase of properties, obviously the town would be borne for that. And then there is a parking lot in the proposal, by Roma Joe's, the birdhouses are. That is not part of the project. We own the property, but we would be on the hook for all the cost of paving that, et cetera. So basically, and then any miscellaneous costs. So to your point, Mike, I would love to just get a better grasp on what the overall cost would be. I know we need to do some things, and I think we should do some things. It does scare me a little bit that we're going to pull up the full amount of the bond, and if we have to pay that, because it's just a lot of money. And to your point, I want to just make sure, what do we truly need? Because when you look at the townspeople that were involved with this process, there were a lot of people, about 200, but that's about 2% of the entire town population. So in theory, it's a small amount of the population.
One of the things that I want to mention that always goes unnoticed is a significant portion of this is your underground infrastructure. It's failing. It will, I think they quoted us during the meeting that you 8 to 10 years max of life left in those.
And that's a big one, absolutely.
That's a huge amount.
Absolutely.
And, so I think when it's broken down, you'll be able to see that it's a valuable proposition for the town. One thing that Maine DOT told us is that you folks, Gray, has been talking about this for 25, 30 years.
Oh, that's crazy.
And I just opened up the schedule because I hadn't had a chance to open it up. With all the build-out plans, the grant awards, final public meeting, blah, 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 we're down to July 2035 for project completion. So even if you make a decision to support it today, that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
And so that needs to be factored in as well.
Yeah, and I just want to make this point too. I just kind of doing some calculations here. On $3 million on a 30-year loan, we're talking about $20 a year for most people, for most taxpayers. So, I mean, we just got to be, we talk big numbers, but, at the end of the day, how much does it really cost us versus, so I just think we need, I agree. I'm concerned with some of this project. I just don't want us to pay for a lot that if, it's like, I want to redo all the schools and I want the state to pay for it. So, but, that's why we're going to get numbers and let the voters decide on it. All right. Any more discussion on this? All right. Awesome, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for doing the research because, we need to know what we get ourselves into. All right, so next thing, I think, Vinnie, this is something that you brought up, so I'm going to let you kind of talk about the policy review and then open it up, if that's okay?
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna switch gears on it a little bit if I could.
Yeah.
So, let me flip this over here. So, as we've kind of been digging deeper of recent, all of us, into the various functions of all the different departments in the town, there are without a doubt, I think there are areas that we can maybe do some improvements or that are needed. And, at this point, I'd like to see about us kind of level setting on what we're doing, how we're doing it, and looking into ways that we could benchmark to get best processes. So one of the things I would like to see if we could do is I would like to look at bringing in a consultant to review the various departments. And I guess I would start with probably the most important department, which would be HR. And basically the thought is it'll help us ensure the various departments are operating as efficiently as possible, along with basically bringing the best practices into these departments. When I was working, and I was in the medical field, I would work at a hospital with a group of surgeons, and they all kind of did the same thing. And because they fed off each other, they saw what each other did. And when I would go to other hospitals, I was learning new techniques. I'd bring them in. They would have better outcomes. It'd be more efficient. And I think by having somebody come in to look at it, it could give us some guidance to get us on a good path. I think we're uncovering a lot of things. So along with, doing even what we're talking about, policy reviews, et cetera, I think that may be part of that down the line. But right now, I'd kind of like to start with this, maybe looking at a consultant group and getting your feedback on if that's something that we would be amicable as a group to doing.
Now with you?
I'm sorry. What did you ask? I was reading.
I mean, what do you think about Vinnie's thoughts?
How much is it going to cost?
If I would say the initial would be $5,000, which, if you think about the value that we could bring long-term and support, is probably a deal on doing it. And again, it's just bringing support to these people that are, we're kind of on an island in our own town, bringing ideas, thoughts of people that have worked with other towns, best practices. I think it would be money well spent. I mean, if we're having leakage someplace or not doing something as efficiently as possible, that alone could pay for it.
Now, I guess my question is that compared to what Britt's doing, and it's not going to do anything with the ordinances, it's more about the function of the town and how the town's run, from procurement to hiring to salaries, and
Yes.
is that,
we would start, I think, yeah, and I think, like I said, we'd start off with the HR department, go through things with them, give guidance, because I think that's a pivotal one, and then they could branch out from there if we so desire to do so.
Anna, see hand, I just want to make a comment first. What I'd like to do is, I'm not against it at all. I've wanted, an outside company to come in for a while now and do an analysis of salaries and all that stuff. What I would like to see is the scope and the cost, right? This is what they'll do, and this is how much it's going to cost. Once we have that, I'd be willing to do it. Ann?
Yeah, scope, and I will be interested in the scope and the cost. I'd be interested in also making sure that we RFP'd it so that multiple, that we could get multiple bids. But I guess the other question I have is where the money would come from. I mean, in this budget, it's pretty lean at this point, and I don't know where you'd find the money.
Good question. All right.
I think it's a great idea. So I think we
Right.
should move forward with it.
Well, I think, before we move forward with it, we've got to get, the scope,
Yes,
the
yes.
cost, and then
Maybe
where the
we'll
money's
figure
going to
it
come
out.
from. And then we, so if you can get that together for us, then we'll put it on the next meeting, okay? All right. All right. Mooring ordinance. I know, Ann, you and I talked about this a little bit. I don't know, Tammy, have we gotten anywheres with this? What do we need to do?
Regarding the mooring ordinance, I think that you need to decide whether or not you want to do one.
Okay.
And then you need to look into, I looked into it briefly because I had somebody inquire, I think a resident inquired to them, and then they sort of reached out to me, and so I did a quick research, and there's state law around mooring ordinances. how they're structured, and then there's also state law around harbor masters. And so if the town is going to adopt a mooring ordinance, then you also are going to have a harbor master. And there's state law around the authority that harbor master has and what extent the council would like to see their authority extend to. Do you want somebody that would be like a full-blown inland and fisheries and wildlife type of game warden with a sidearm with arrest policies, or do you want it to be a person that would be doing mooring stuff in the summer and violations, and then possibly a different role, or have it incorporated into a position that has more authority than just mooring stuff? Because obviously that only operates during the summer.
So my question is, why couldn't we just put it under your group?
You could put it under my group, but we would need somebody to do it.
Okay.
We can't do that right now in this capacity.
Okay.
And we would have to look at specifically what, I did not read the law close enough
Okay.
to know if it would, I don't know if they fall under law enforcement. I don't know enough about harbor masters. I would have to look into it more.
Okay.
And ask about what other communities have. There are other communities around the area that have mooring ordinances. We were able to pull up several when we kind of quickly looked, just to see if we could actually legally do it. But it does involve somebody being out there on the waters during a summer. There's going to be a cost to it. I mean, obviously, they're going to need access to the water, which means they're going to need some sort of boat. I mean, there's a bigger expense.
Okay.
And, whether or not they would be on a constable level, which would typically be under, which is like special police, which could be under my authority, or whether they would be law enforcement, which would be in a different branch of government. So we would have to look into that. But it would be something that would make the most sense, that if the town had that they were situated with our group.
So it couldn't be something as simple as is that if you're going to have a mooring, you have to come in and get a permit, and because right now I'm just thinking of, for example,
You say that that's simple. So
Well-
let me tell you what's going to happen in April. Once the ice melts, what's going to happen is we're going to go into our phase where what I call our dock wars.
Yep.
Okay? We go through it every year, same people, and it's extremely time consuming.
Yep.
And it's because you're only allowed to have one dock on your property.
Okay.
There's setbacks that you have to meet. You're supposed to have a permit. And if it's beyond the high water mark, it's out of my authority. So you can have a dock that's floating in front of your house. You can have 4 docks floating in front of your house, an inch off from your beach. Okay? I have no authority over that. That's inland and fisheries and wildlife.
State. Yep.
Every year, it's the same thing. And that's what places that we can walk to.
Okay.
Not even places we'd have to swim to see if there's a tag on a mooring. I mean, it's a pretty involved thing. I think that it would be, I don't think it's a bad thing, because it's, as somebody that grew up in Maine and knows about having people moored in various locations when they don't even own property on lakes.
Yep.
But it's definitely something that in our capacity, I think that during the summer, I think that would be a full-time, almost everyday type of enforcement type of thing.
Okay. All right. And do you have any questions?
Typically what happens is that, a town committee or something like that is charged with this. In this case, we have the lake associations that have asked for it. So, I mean, there could be like an ad hoc committee that is pulled together to study this more and make some recommendations to the council. I think it is an important issue. My understanding is that the legislature took a pass at creating a statewide mooring ordinance. But other communities may have done something. I'm not really up on this myself. And it does seem like it's an increasing issue, though. I mean, and it's an issue because, people can moor their boats and live on them all summer, 20 feet off your dock. And a lot of property owners aren't thrilled by that.
Yeah. No, I know over by me, there is one place that there's 20 boats and they're all smashing up against each other. And, unfortunately, people have now started putting them right in front of people's houses.
Right, well,
And
there's
they can't
also
even
the
get out.
issue, when you get into doing things like, if you're going to incorporate a mooring ordinance, you'd want to get into things that more of the Department of Inland and Fisheries and Wildlife has authority over that you could deal with at the local level. Another big issue that we hear about is riparian rights, which basically says under state law, you can put your dock, you can extend it enough to be able to get your boat out safely. And again, we don't have authority over it because it's in the water, it's not on land. That's subject to interpretation, and we have people that have really long docks that are blocking other people from getting their boats out in certain areas where like coves and things, there's also stuff in there that talks about that you're only allowed to go out, say, a third of the distance on each side to allow the center channel to be open. Again, that's something we get complaints about all the time, but we have no authority to enforce that. So I think that if you were going to do something, you'd want to maybe have a committee, like Ann said, to really get a group of people to make sure that this position could cover all of those issues during the summer and during the months of, boating season, and then possibly incorporate that. I had some ideas around making that more of a full-time position that could be supported year-round with some other work regarding just more support to shoreland.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Well, I do have a question, and Tammy is correct. I did read up on this, and if you're going to do a mooring ordinance, you do have to get a harbor master. So if we're going to move forward with this, you're going to have to figure out how to get a harbor master to deal with this. That is part of the state law.
So would the lake association, because obviously there's obviously going to be a cost to it to get a boat, a person. Would the lake association pay for that, harbor master?
No, it would not be the lake association. If you're going to have a local ordinance regarding moorings, you're going to have a local enforcement method, which means you're going to have somebody on staff do that.
Well, I think what his question was is, would the lake association pay for it? Being on the lake, and, my opinion is this, is that I would have a hard time, asking my neighbors to pay for something since, 80% aren't year-round and they pay a good portion of the taxes already. So, I don't disagree with you, but I just think that would be a hard pill to swallow. I think we need to do more research, and just, and figure
Yeah, I do.
out-
I don't think the lake associations really have their funds are really used for their, research from what I've learned about, invasive species and milfoil and, water quality and testing. I do think that they would be more than willing to, if this did go forward and came to fruition, more than willing to say, give us access to a right-of-way if they had one for the town to use, give us access. If there isn't public access on some of these lakes, give us access in a waiver to be able to put our boat someplace or use their property to gain access in and out. I think they would be super supportive of the idea, but I don't think that they have the fiscal capacity to help
I'm just
contribute to
wondering,
it.
maybe there's another town or two that has something like this set up, and maybe we could
Share.
the
Yeah.
cost and just,
Something to look
when
into.
people have an issue, they can just call the guy and the guy can come over and, or girl, the lady.
We have,
can go do their
because
thing.
when I had somebody inquiring about it, I think Casco has a harbor master. Raymond does not, but there are places close by
Yeah.
that have these ordinances that.
Yeah, and for example, on Little Sebago Lake, it's Wyndham, Gray, and Raymond, right? So we could, it's something.
Yeah, it could be a multi-support, it could be an
Yeah.
interlocal agreement between towns and they pay a portion of the salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can figure it out. One of the things is that's really hard for, at least for me, to swallow is on the lake is that, unfortunately, we did put in a boat ramp, and when we did, it opened it up, and, people came in, and next thing we know, we had milfoil. And the state did not, that we had to pay for the majority of the eradication of that. And, that's really hard when you pay, the taxes that we pay, that we didn't have a choice about the boat ramp. And, most likely, it could have been somebody that owns property, but most likely it was brought in from a weekend warrior that, that we all are paying for now. So Tammy, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tammy.
So next thing is the town manager search. And the reason this is on here is that we've been getting a lot of comments about it. And I just thought it'd be good for us to kind of talk about it, kind of, put together, our thoughts, and, let everyone know where we're at in the process. So I'll be honest with you, we've had so much on our plates that, this has not been a priority for me. Denise has been doing a good job so far. And, we've got the budget process, we've got a lot of other things going on that I have not really spent a lot of time dealing with it. But probably, Ann, since you're out there, we'll start with you and we'll go around the room and let everybody know kind of what your thought process is and, timelines, how to do it and so on.
Yeah, so just I'll sketch out what we've done. I've been through 2 of these so far. Generally, it's a process that takes some time. We've used a search firm in the past. This is a fair amount of work to hire somebody, and for obvious reasons. I mean, I think town staff shouldn't really be involved with it, especially if they're candidates internally. We'd have to create an RFP for a search firm, hire somebody, interview them, figure out who we want to hire. Then the search firm helps us write the ad and also the job description for the new manager, and receives the resumes. And it helps kind of winnow down the applicants. If you've been through hiring processes, there's always tons of with LinkedIn and stuff. I mean, there's ways that people can submit their resumes really easily without really having any of the qualifications that are needed for the job. So they have to sort of winnow those down into the ones who are really what we're looking for or closer to it. And then I think they usually do the background check. And then that's the process. And then of course you've got to they will work with the candidates to set up and us to set up the interviews, and usually there's a couple rounds of interviews. We may want the department heads to interview the candidates, at least the finalists, and so it just takes a while. I mean, I think it's hard to do it right. You can go through that whole process and end up with somebody who doesn't really work out, and we've had a couple of those experiences lately. But that's, I'm open to some other suggestions about how to do it, but that's kind of the way it's worked in the past.
And in the past, when you guys did it, did you guys have like a team of community members on there?
No.
No. Okay. And for me,
well, bear in mind, when we hired Nate Rudy, it was during the pandemic, and so people weren't meeting face to face and stuff. And I think usually what happens is that the candidate comes and there's kind of a meet and greet. But it can vary. I think we could certainly change that.
Okay. All right. No, I definitely, I'll go around and I'll tell everybody my ideas last. Charity.
Well, I'm certainly not opposed to hiring a search firm, but certainly want to do my research on, which firm we hire. And then I think that we also need to do an independent review ourselves, just to verify the information that we're receiving from a search firm. As far as timelines go, I know we're kind of getting down to the wire here for June, depending on what happens with, our positions, at least 2 of our positions here on council. So I think that's something that we really need to start the process of getting the ball rolling on it, because it does take some time to start finding, advertising and finding candidates. So that's kind of where I'm at on that.
I'm personally in no rush. I think Denise is doing a great job. I see down here we have Town of Grapetown Charter. I think the charter needs to be addressed in the personnel policy before we move forward and get a new town manager, so we're not getting in the same predicament we were in. I would like to start there before we search for another town manager.
Vince?
Kind of a little bit of everything. I would like to look at the charter as Ken stated. I do think that takes some time to do. I don't know if we'd have it done. I don't know what the exact process is that. Is it a year? Does it have to go up to voters? I'm not sure exactly. Intricacies of that. Britt, would you care to comment?
It's not a quick process.
I think we are going to talk
And we're going to talk about it, so I'll go
Okay,
into
all
the
right, all right.
details,
So it's not
but
a
it's
quick-
not
that's
quick.
why.
So if it's, you know, if it's not a quick process, I think I'd like to start the search. I do think it takes some time. I would like to have somebody in, best case scenario, if we could do it June 1st. But the reality to me is it's more important to find the right person, he or she, rather than just try to get it done just to fill it. I think it's too important. I think, hopefully we learn our lessons through history and we do our due diligence. I think we, as Charity said, I think we need to do our own independent review as well. We really need to do our due diligence on background checks, on where that person came from, to really make sure, to the best of our ability, we have not only the right person, but the right person for this town, so that we can have somebody in place hopefully for a long time.
Personally, I want to put this off long enough that I'm not here, so I don't get blamed for picking the next person. Like Ken said, I'm fine with, we've got so much on our plate right now. Denise is doing a great job. What I'd like to see ultimately is this. I would like to see the council and the town people put together a list of priorities for what they're looking for. What type of manager are they looking for? What do they want for this town? So I want the council, I want the employees, and I want the town to put together a list of what's important to them. Then, once we do that, I'd also like to put together a group of individuals to be on the committee, okay? I would like for there to be people from the town. I would like there people from that are employees, and and ultimately, obviously, it's up to the council as well. But I would like to get that list of everything criteria. I would like to get a group of individuals to vet before it even comes to the council. So, and then, obviously, background checks. I am going to be all over making sure that whatever firm we use to do background checks knows that we're going to hold them accountable if we find out something afterwards, because that is extremely important to me. I also want to make sure that this person, understands this community, and what, I don't know as if me personally, am looking for someone that is a town manager today. Or it's even in the, in a public forum like this. Maybe that's been a problem in the past. Maybe we should be looking for an attorney that can cover a couple roles. Maybe we should be looking for someone that, has done town planning. Maybe we should be looking for someone in business. I don't know, but I'll tell you, I am in no hurry to hire somebody just because I may or may not be here. I want to get the right person this time, and that to me means more than anything. I know that doesn't answer some of the questions that have been asked to us, but I just wanted to get it out there today that we are looking at it, we are thinking about it. We probably should have another meeting about it, but I wanted to talk to everybody in public about what we're thinking. Anybody else wants to make any comments about this?
I think you covered it all, Mike.
Covered,
Yeah,
that's good.
you covered
Yeah,
it.
well stated, yeah.
All right, moving on.
Actually, Mike, I just have
Yeah,
one
please
other
do.
thing I
Yep,
wanted to
step
comment
up.
on. I've had a few people say to me that they think that the town manager should be required to live in this town, and I think I don't agree with that. I think it limits our candidate pool significantly, because what you're asking then is somebody who lives elsewhere maybe has a low-interest mortgage on their house and kids in their school system to move to Gray, buy a house that's maybe more expensive or, one that they have to pay more money for because they have to get a higher interest loan and move their kids into a new school system. And I think that just really limits the pool of candidates. And we had a candidate, a finalist for the position tell us, like, I couldn't afford to live in this town, even with what you're paying me, because housing prices have gotten that expensive. And we have very little rental stock. So I know that desire has come up, but I just wanted to just point those kind of practical issues out.
And if you asked me a year ago, I would be arguing with you up and down, disagreeing with you. I don't know. Would it be good? Would it be great to have someone that lives in this town? Absolutely. But I've been talking to a lot of towns lately, and some of the comments that have been made to me, I understand their point. And their point is that, Mike, look at the shit that you deal with online now. Why would I want to live in a town and I run into these people at the grocery store? Excuse my language. So, are we going to get the right person that wants to live here? I don't know. Would I like to? Of course I would. But I don't necessarily disagree with you today. A year ago, I would have fought with you tooth and nail and said that they have to live here. I know it's one of the things that I want because I think that they should see the repercussions of their decisions, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get the right person. And excuse my language, but it's a tough one. And I think all of us on this board would like someone to live here. We've all talked about it. Whether we're going to find somebody, I don't know. But that's a great point, yeah. All right. Anything else, Ann? Okay. Let's talk about the budget process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of hand it over to Denise and let her discuss what they would like to do. And because I know that's been a big question for everybody. We don't want to go through what we went through last year. I'm not going to use the same word I used a minute ago, but something show is what happened last year. So we don't want that to happen again this year. So Denise has some plans on how to make that not happen. And Denise, go for it.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I worked with Britt on this because we had to worry about the scheduling and backing it up from the meeting, and Justine. And what the main difference is that you folks last year apparently had a public input session in early February. That was before any numbers came across the floor. And so I think that's what Mike was probably referring to. And I wasn't here. Was I here?
You were here.
Yeah, I was. Okay, wow. Already.
We're not going to hire you if you can't remember last year.
So at this point, what we're proposing to do, and we're literally 3 weeks ahead of schedule. The department head budget submissions were due to the finance director and to the town manager on the 22nd of December. Everybody met that, and so we were able to rock and roll right in early January. Reviewed all the department head budgets with the department heads, so instead of like following it in solo and then coming back to the department head with questions, we met with each one of them. And then unfortunately, Justine had to be away urgently here, and so we have kind of lost this week, but she's doing some stuff from remote. And so our finance review, we're going to review all the departmental submissions, calculate the wage and benefits, and finalize the budget, and talk about a presentation guideline. We're aiming to give you folks the full budget on March 5th, and that's on a Thursday, with the first meeting on the 10th and the next one on the 17th. And those will be held with the respective department budgets. And each department head will be presenting, unlike last year where the town manager presented the entire thing. I will do a basic intro budget presentation, but everybody's going to be asked to do a 5 to 10 minute presentation. At that point, right as their presentation is finished, that's when counselors will be able to ask questions. And then at the end of the evening, and we'll be gathering questions, At the end of the evening, the public will be able to ask questions, and we will try to answer them as best we can, because we have the department heads here. But if we can't get the answers, we will provide that at the next meeting. So tentatively, this is the schedule, and then you will have a lot of meetings in March. But on the 31st, that's when we will hold a special town meeting for, you actually going to have your public hearing on the draft budget and to establish the warrants, and then it rolls right into Tuesday, April 7th for the regular town meeting and the approval of the FY27 annual budget warrants. And the rest is on for June 9th for the vote. Any questions, or it's an aggressive timeline, but we built in a lot of time right now to just siphon through the questions. And you will get it on the 5th, so it gives you plenty of time, the whole month of April, March, to be able to assemble your questions.
I just have one quick question. So you're already ahead of schedule creating the budget. What does it look like compared to last year's?
We're not quite there yet, because
Okay.
we inputted all of the personnel,
All right.
and we haven't factored in a COLA yet. We were looking at throwing out a 3% COLA, so until that's all put together, that hasn't been calculated.
Okay.
All the capital is in, all the operational budgets are in, right? And I think, yeah, so basically the personnel and the line items, and those were just inputted all at the end of last week. But we may be able to have some semblance of a report out of the town manager's report at your upcoming meeting.
All right,
next
sounds
week.
good.
Yeah, question?
I don't have any question.
Yeah.
You okay with the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and you know, I would like to let them take as long, I know they said, hey, it's 10, for me, if they run over, they can take as long as they want. It's such an important thing for us to get our arms around, so I'm, you know, that's one that I have zero qualms of staying as late as possible. I think it's too important to the town to not.
Absolutely, yes.
Without question.
Agreed.
So, you know, no, thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing from everyone, so that's great. Next up, the Town of Gray Town Charter, and I'm just gonna let Mike take it because he's coming up here. And I believe, Britt, you're gonna
Yes.
interject anyway, so why don't we just hand it over to you? Timon.
All right, so there's been a lot of conversation about reviewing the charter. There's two very distinct things we need to talk about. There's a charter revision, and then there's a charter amendment. So a charter revision is a comprehensive restructuring of the municipal charter. It requires the establishment of a charter commission. So the commission revisions may reorganize the form of government, update administrative structures, clarify authority, and modernize outdated provisions. A revision may be initiated by either the municipal officers or a voter petition of 20% of the last gubernatorial election turnout. So, a charter amendment is a narrowly focused change to a specific section or topic within the charter. It does not require a charter commission. Each amendment must address only one subject through multiple sections. May be changed. Multiple sections can be changed if they relate to that one subject. Municipal officers or voters may initiate the amendment, and it must be adopted by referendum after a public hearing. So, to get into the timeline, a charter commission, this is what's going to add to the delay of not having this done by June. So a charter commission is a formal statutory body established under Title 30A for purpose of preparing a new municipal charter or revision of an existing charter. So if we establish a charter commission, it would be to revise our existing charter. So the charter commission would have to appear on the next ballot if this is to go in June. They would appear on the ballot just as our counselors our water district, our school board members, they would appear just the same. So they would need to be voted on by the voters.
I'm going to stop you real quick and ask you a question for that. Does that mean that at that point, are we opening it up, or does the actual what's going to be changed have to be on that? What is going
This is, so opening it up to a charter commission.
Okay.
I'm going to get there. So this would begin the process. So the purpose of and the scope of the charter commission, they would conduct a comprehensive review of the existing charter. They would engage the public through surveys, hearings, or workshops. They would be researching best practices and legal requirements. They would draft the proposed revisions. They would issue a final report describing their rationale and for each change, and submit the revised charter to council for placement on a referendum ballot. So that's, after they do that work, is when it would go to
When-
So
ballot.
it opens up,
It just opens
it
it up.
opens up
Yes.
the entire thing.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the authority and independence of our commission, the commission is solely independent from the council once they are formed. It has the authority to determine its internal rules, elect its officers, and decide how they gather their public input. They would conduct their own legal review with our town attorney and MMA legal prior to their submission to the council. Once the commission's work is complete, the council must place the revised charter on a referendum ballot. I, as town clerk, would prepare the ballot language according to state law, and then the adoption can only occur through a majority vote at referendum. So,
Okay, so if
It's
we want to make
quite a
certain,
timeline.
if we want to make recommendations, okay?
they
Ah.
are solely independent from council.
You can make a recommendation, but they decide.
No,
You
I
can
get
make
that,
your
but-
recommendation
okay.
through the public input
Okay,
set portion, how they conduct it.
Okay.
You would not be able to provide your input as a council.
okay. Now, let's move over to things that we can do as a council, okay?
Yeah.
So one thing is, let's say, we hired Denise and we didn't like her. We wanted to get rid of her. Not that we ever would. Right now, I was just looking over, this is one thing I just saw today. If we want to get rid of Denise, we can only get rid of her for cause, okay? From my understanding from talking to attorneys, that we could change now and change the wording on that today, just something simple like that, right? Am I,
So that would be considered an amendment.
okay,
An amendment would still, there's still a timeline for that.
okay.
So the amendment for something to that one subject and that one subject only, which is your administrative power within that council, it can be changed on multiple parts of the charter as long as it refers to only that one item.
Okay,
So say we're adding in, just throwing this out there to be crazy, say we're throwing in a dog walker. You can have a dog walker appear multiple times throughout the charter, but it's only if you're referring to your roles, responsibilities, and administering powers to dog walker.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
yeah, it does. Because earlier you told me that you were working on a lot of suggestions for the charter.
Where we can see that there's things that should be addressed through clerical errors and
So what's the so how long, what's the, we want to do the dog walker, what's the process? and
So the
timeline?
process, if we are going to have a dog walker, is you are going to, and this can be through council or through citizen petition, discusses and approves initiating a charter amendment. You would propose your changes. It would go through legal review through the town attorney and MMA legal. You would have to hold 2 public hearings and finalize language for the ballot. So you would need to go through this. If you want it done in June, you would need to go through this process. So it could be on our proposed warrant for the 31st of March. So you would have to have your 2 public hearings. You would vote to place the amendment on the ballot, and then it would go to referendum election.
Okay, so here's the other question. So say there were, I'm going to make this up, say there were 5 things we wanted to do, 5 amendments. You can only
can
do
only
one
do
at a
one?
time?
You can only change It depends on your 5 amendments.
But
If
if
you're
you
doing
did
an
5
amendment, it can only pertain to the one subject.
What happens if you want to just change one word in the charter? Can you do that?
So that's a clerical
Yeah.
thing. That's simple.
Well, I know, but one word in the charter.
Does the one
would-
word affect how it's implemented? If that one word affects how it's implemented, then
amendment.
it's an amendment.
So you can only do, so you couldn't do like 5, you couldn't do a dog walker, and then we couldn't do something, you can only do one thing at a time? Or can you do multiple things?
So
You could do multiple, I'm gonna
No,
answer
go
it, so I
ahead.
wanna see if I'm wrong. You can do multiple things, so you could do 10 different changes, but they can't be to the same statute, okay? So you could, as long as it doesn't change and they don't affect each other, you could do
Gotcha.
that, but you gotta be real careful here, because you really shouldn't be redoing this yourself. But, again, going back to one thing, if we found a huge issue with something small that we could change, that's, until we can get the whole charter policy all over again. But, I think it is time to look at the, so for us, there's 2 things here. One is tonight, I want to know what we need to do so we can get this committee started for the June. What do we need to do so that we can get it on the ballot? What's our steps for that?
you can either, we can either have a citizen's petition, where we would need 20% of the gubernatorial voters, or you can present a council order.
Oh, we can do what?
A council order.
All right, and how do we do that?
Would you like a council order?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it?
We will have a council order, not on your,
We can have it next week, why not? We have time?
Take 7?
6, 7
okay.
days, I don't think we have that much.
with a council order.
Can I just ask a
And go
Can I
for
ask
it?
a clarifying question? I'm wondering, what is the process by which the council, approves an order? I mean, does it need to be a majority of the council or at least 2 people, or how does that process work? And I also just want to point out that this, the charter revisions don't appear on either our referral list or on our council priorities that we set last September. So I'm kind of wondering where this came from and would like some more information about what it is you hope to accomplish with it.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. So I actually had been talking, so I have been talking behind the scenes, so I can get blamed for that. I was talking with the former town manager, I was talking with our council, and I was also talking to Britt about some issues that we see with our charter that really aren't up to code. And so we have been talking about this for quite a while. Vince and I have talked about it as well. Some of the things that we saw with some things that have been happening this past year. And, so it's been talked about. And that's why we're having this kind of meeting tonight, Ann, is because we want to make sure we're all having the conversation together, right? So it's something that I have been talking about for a while. And, with the former town manager and with Brett, because Brett has found some things in there that aren't actually up to par from what I understand. Is that a fair saying?
Yes,
Could
I've-
somebody just list some of what those things are? I haven't been part of any of these conversations.
Yeah, so let me pull up.
She has a list, yes.
Give me a second, I'll pull up my draft if you want to.
And Ann, this isn't something new. This has been about a year now, right, Britt, that you and I have been kind of talking about it? Yeah, it was even before I became, whatever you call me today. There's a lot of names for what people call me. But, so she's been working on it for a long time. We're just trying to figure out the best way to do it. And, I think for the amount of changes that, we're going to suggest, it does make sense to have a commission. Brett? Still not down? All right.
Could you, in theory, could do both? We could work on some
Yes.
amendments we want now, and then we could do the revision for the long term, so we could do the short term and the long term.
I would certainly want to consult legal before we do that.
I know, I'm just
Yeah,
saying, I'm
absolutely.
just saying in theory, we would consult legal, yes.
Yeah, and I have consulted legal about one thing, and they recommend, before we hire a new town manager, we fix some things.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, like I said, when I went through, mine was more for clerical and making things cleaner. When we went through our last revision, it was to separate the duties of town manager and town clerk. So our charter doesn't, it added the duties of, it added the title of town clerk, but it did not specifically separate the duties of town manager and town clerk. So some of my amendments were going through and clarifying that, as well as addressing some of the other departments. Yeah. Again,
And I can send you a
cleaning
list of the
up
things
stuff.
that I've seen, I don't have them here in front of me, I was gonna talk about the process, but there are some things that I've seen that I've been advised we should change, and I can send those over to you, okay? But I don't think we answered her question. So her question was, if we're going to have it on the ballot in June, how many people have to vote for it from the council for the order? Is it all of us?
So
Is
the
it-
order doesn't go on the ballot.
No, what I mean.
order.
So for us to have an order, to have it put on the ballot, because my question earlier was, how do we get it on the ballot? And you said we had to have an order.
Yes, you would do an order, you would present your amendments, we would have the amendments on the ballot.
Is this just a majority?
Just like the last, so the last one where the town clerk was
That's what I'm
added
asking, yeah.
to the ballot?
Yeah.
It would be the similar process to that.
So,
And
yeah,
I
the
believe
question
Ann was
is,
here for
Britt,
that.
I mean, the question is, for Britt, how, is there a process by which the council is supposed to approve an order? Is it a majority vote, or can just any council member say, I want to do this order?
No,
How
it
does
would
that
be
work?
just like our orders are currently on, you raise your hand, majority vote.
Did you hear that, Ann? Majority vote? Okay.
It does need to be a vote, and a majority have to approve.
Yes.
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 Yeah,
Okay.
Right.
okay. Awesome. Good questions, Ann.
I just think that it's important to let the community know what kind of revisions you have in mind.
We would have to hold 2 public hearings before we can place it on the ballot.
So I don't know if you heard that, Ann, but before they go on the ballot, we have to have 2 public hearings, and it would be going on the ballot for the town to vote on it. So no matter what we do, the town votes on it, not us. Okay.
And then Britt, when that goes on the ballot, if we did 4 things, does each of the 4, or do they just say, or
Each
goes-
one separately.
Each one goes separate?
Each one
Okay,
separate
cool.
from
All
what I
cool.
read.
All right,
Okay.
beautiful.
All right, charter, policies and guidelines. So, first of all, sorry, this is kind of informal tonight. Is everyone okay with that conversation? Any more questions for now? All right,
Can I ask a question?
yes, ma'am.
We're continuing with the council order. Are we continuing for an amendment, or are we continuing for a revision?
Whatever we can change on it ourselves.
So
Well,
you-
Cancel one?
I think both.
would you like me
Yeah.
to follow up with legal
Yeah.
first and then get back to you with what I hear on if you can make your
There's-
amendments
there's a
while we-
couple- Yeah, because there's a couple revisions that I want to make, right? And let's find out if we can do those revisions. And then
revisions or
everything else-
amendments?
Revisions, okay?
So we can't do revisions without the charter commission.
Okay, so which is the one where, let's say all I want to do is change the one that I mentioned earlier, is that I want to make it so that if a town, we can let a town manager go, and whatever legal language we can use, but it doesn't have to be for cause. It can just be for whatever. So the problem is that, if there is an agreement with Vince, okay, and the agreement with Vince is that I can let him go, but if I let him go, I have to pay him $10, okay? But our town charter says that even if it's in his agreement, I can't let him go unless it's for cause. And let's say cause in his agreement is different than the town charter. his agreement will override the charter. Makes no sense, but that's the way legally it works. So I want to fix it so that, the town's protected moving forward.
Okay, I will reach out to legal and see if they
Okay,
would
you got-
consider
alright,
that
cool.
a revision or amendment and
I
what we
just,
can do with
sorry,
that.
I just want to protect the town.
No, I
Okay.
understand, but I
Okay.
will reach out to legal and see
Okay.
how they want us to proceed.
Okay, awesome. So next, going to town policies and guidelines. There is a ton on here of policies and guidelines. I know for myself, some are newer and we're fine with, and some are older. Is there any one on here that anybody wants to discuss in detail? For example, the social media policy. I know that's fairly new. We've done a lot of work on it. But people, I'll just bring up the social media policy. People don't understand sometimes what some things mean. So for an example, a couple months ago, we voted on changing, when the town makes a post, it is not open for comments when it's on the town page. I've seen comments online saying it's illegal, they can't do that, blah, 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 blah. I just want to comment on that one. We talked to the attorneys multiple times before we did it. And, what it is this, is that, on social media, we cannot pick and choose who comments and who does not comment. So the easiest thing to do, as long as we don't open it up to comments at all, we can do that. And there were reasons why a lot of us felt very strongly about, the town page, and just leaving it open for publication. I've read in places that, people feel like they can't comment, they can't say things. Well, that's actually not true. On the social media, everyone's got their own pages. The town, we want to keep clean, so we don't allow it for comments. But if you have a comment, we open it up all the time to public comment. We open it up too much, in my opinion. We're one of the only towns to open it up as much as we do. Also, the best way to get answers in this town is to write to myself, Denise, or anyone on this council. Because a lot of times we need to get answers, okay, and we need to look stuff up. So if you want clarification, if you have a question about something you heard, please reach out to us. But this social media policy was done for a few different reasons: to protect the town and to protect the employees, and there's a lot behind it. I'm picking on this one just because I know that we just adopted it in November, but some of these, haven't been looked at for a while. Are there any that people are concerned with on here that we need to address? And if so, do you want to, take some time and do some research and come back with clarification? Or is everyone okay with these, the way these policies are written today?
I'd like to take some time to research more.
Okay,
Same.
same, okay.
Hey, how long are we keeping, and I don't know if this is accurate, but somebody had commented, like on our, one thing, like on our meetings. All the meetings obviously are recorded, we're live now. How long are they supposed to be held for? They should be held for, or should they be available for at least, say, 5 years? And the other question I have, you can roll right into this one, is that I think every group that has a meeting should be recorded. I think, for example, I'll just use one, finance. All these meetings should be recorded. They should be available to the public. I think we should have full transparency. And if you have full transparency, then you get people talking and saying things. So that would be the other thing I would like to chat about.
I don't think the finance committee needs to go live. The public can go, so, I think that's up to them. I don't really think we need to,
All
Do
you're
it
doing
like
is,
this
all you're
and
doing
put
is
it
flipping the
online.
channel on.
I don't know.
Well,
It's up to you.
I think
I'm
Britt
just
was
saying,
going
go
to
ahead,
answer the
let's see,
question
Britt,
first,
go
and then
ahead,
I'm going to let you talk, Ken. What
No,
was
go.
the answer to that question on how long they need to keep it?
So if we have it, it's archived. It's backed up. If we have a digital copy of it, we keep it. It may be somewhere different,
right.
just because of how things have evolved and changed, how we've adapted differently to social media and different types of processes. But if it's been recorded, we have it.
I'm just trying to find it.
Yeah.
All right.
It's trying to go through the reorganization of adapting to YouTube, or how did we used to record it? Is it on a cassette deck? We do have those. We have floppy disks. If it's been recorded and it was stored on a floppy, we have it.
Okay.
And then to roll into your other question, we can certainly make that amendment to the committees and affiliations policy if that's the wish of the council. We can certainly work on that and propose a draft, and you can discuss it at a future meeting or a workshop. But if you have specific amendments that you would like to policies, you can let us know, and those can be things that we work on.
Yeah, and I know that the school board doesn't either. They don't record their workshops and things like, committees.
Convenient.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just
No, I
saying,
hear
and the thing is that, I don't care one way or another. What I don't want though is that, I don't want it to open up to just a, we want to get there and get the work done. Again, it's open to anybody that wants to come, to Ken's point. I don't have a problem with recording stuff, but.
But no questions.
I
don't think the other committees should have. I agree. I don't think they should have questions. I'm just saying it'd just be nice for people that I just think if they wanted to watch it, they could watch it.
Yeah.
But you're right. I don't think.
Yeah,
I don't think those would be open to questions.
Yeah.
Can I just jump in here? The Open Space Committee, I think Resiliency does record our meetings and post them, but the Open Space, we ended up deciding not to record our meetings, and people can come, but we sometimes talk about specific landowners and parcels that we might be interested in purchasing, and that's more sensitive information, so we haven't been recording those meetings.
Well, I think that'd be the same with the finance committee. I think there's information there that people don't really need to see.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can request anything, but sometimes, I'm with you, Ken. Any other thoughts on these? And Charity, you're going to look at some of them. You're going to look at some and let us know.
I'd like to go with the Freedom of Access Act policy.
What was that?
The FOAA policy?
Yeah.
So anybody can request information from the town that would be stored information?
Yes, to a point. So there are things on there, and Brett can get, personnel matters. There's certain things that we can and cannot release. Okay, like if I write up Vince, that's actually open to FOAA, believe it or not.
Really?
Yes, I did not know that. But there's other things that you can't do, and I don't know the list of them. And that actually came from John.
Okay.
John was the one that told me about that. So that's, I don't know all the rules. I don't. Most stuff can be, but there are certain things that can't be. Okay. That's the best way I can. Brett, is that a fair answer?
Yes, that is a fair answer.
Okay.
So FOA, your freedom of access, that does provide the public to a good portion of our files and data. But like Mike said, there are certain items that are not open to public. Things that are currently under litigation, investigation, certain personnel matters, things pertaining to minors. There's a list, and sometimes we do need to run it by legal to make sure that things can't be disclosed. And there's also a list of things that would need to be redacted.
FOAA is a law, though.
Yes.
From the state of Maine.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
And
it is.
Information's not supposed to be destroyed from FOAA, correct?
Correct, so we keep it.
Okay. That's
So,
what I wanted.
If we have it, we have
if
to
somebody,
distribute
took something and you're not supposed to, employees aren't allowed to, erase anything from, town-owned property, things like
Gotcha.
that.
Okay.
But there is something I found out though, and this is interesting. Let's say someone accesses, and this is a good question that I don't know the answer to. If somebody calls and they want a copy of, something that happened over in the gym and there's minors in there, we cannot release that. All right?
Well,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, there are things that, and so when the kids come up and speak from whatever, I think that's something actually we need to find out about when children speak.
It's during a public meeting during council. That
Okay.
time it's okay.
All right, I'm not an attorney.
It would be recorded.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so you guys are gonna look at the ordinances, the guidelines. Next thing are the ordinances, all right?
Actually,
Now-
can I just?
Oh, yeah, please do.
Can I
Yeah,
just-
yep.
Regarding the policies and stuff, so can we agree on when we're gonna come back and talk about this? Is this coming up, is this gonna be an agenda item at a future meeting, and if so, when? I just think it's really helpful to have those deadlines.
So I'm thinking can we give everybody a month? So let's say March, we're the end of January. We've got a lot of budget stuff going on in February. So let's do the first meeting in March to come back. Does that work for everybody?
Well, first meeting in March is when the budget will be presented. We're actually not doing any budget stuff in February, right?
I thought we were doing budget stuff. We're not doing stuff in February?
No, March.
I thought it was March.
March.
I went to the facility, so I didn't hear the date, so, all right. I don't care. What date are you thinking in?
I'm not the one who brought this up, so I'll defer to others.
I don't care.
I think a month's fair,
A month, well, okay, well, we're gonna meet a lot in March,
or a
so.
month or longer.
Or longer, so let's do the first meeting in April, if we were gonna pick a date, because, it's not, I'm not gonna say it's not important, but I want people to at least look at them and spend some time looking at them, see if, and maybe there's nothing, because really, the big stuff is this, all right? So, I'm gonna open it up, and then I think somebody wanted to smack me today, but that's okay. The ordinances, when I was going through this and I was looking at the ordinances, I was surprised at some of the things in the ordinances, how repetitive some of them were, how dated some of them were. And, like for example, license, permit, and issuance ordinance adopted September 5th, 1995. So, and each one of them written differently, and, so my goal tonight was to divide up the ordinances and have everyone look at them. Now, in the meantime, I had two people approach me. One I respect, and Brett. And so I'm teasing. So Tammy came up to me and made a great suggestion that, some of these ordinances are in line with some of the committees that we're on. So the people that are on those committees should be looking at those ordinances. So tonight, I'd just like to spend 15 minutes just dividing these up and having people look at them. Now, the good news is that Britt has already started this, and I'm gonna let her jump in, and she can tell us what she's been doing on it.
Okay. So, I need both hands. So we contracted with General Code last April for, and this is the total 3-year cost. It's gonna sound like a scary number, but it's really not. So the total 3-year cost was $23,450. This includes the setup fee, so the cost of putting it all together. And 3 years worth of our annual hosting fees and our project build price. So it sounds like a lot, but I will get into.
Can you explain what you're even talking about? 'Cause
Yes,
it's not
general
very
code.
clear.
Yeah.
All right,
Sorry.
well, yeah. I see
Sorry.
Ann's face.
I
and she's
talk
like-
about it all the time. I forget
All right.
people don't know. So general code is, we are in the middle of our ongoing codification process with general code. So general code, like I said earlier, is a nationally recognized municipal codification and code management firm that will fully codify the town's ordinances and create a modern, comprehensive municipal code. The project includes restructuring existing legislation, analyzing all of our ordinances for consistency and compliance, and preparing the town for long-term digital code management. General Code is a member of the ICC, your International Code Council, bringing nationally vetted standards and robust digital tools to the project. Upon completion, Gray's Code will join more than 4,000 municipalities nationwide on eCode 360's online platform. Do we have questions about what General Code does?
So my question before we get too far is this, because I know it's going to come up, is when was the decision made to do this? I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm just wondering, when was the decision made to do this? Is it in the budget, and where does it come from?
So the decision was made, contract was signed last April, so last budget cycle.
Okay.
And it was paid for in full for a 3-year term
Okay.
last April. So there's no budget needs for it in the next 2 fiscal years.
Okay. And was this brought to the council, or was this something the town manager?
This
ma-
was an administrative decision.
Okay.
The annual fee going forward, hosting fee, annual, is going to be $2,495.
Okay.
So, and I can get more into what that annual fee will cover when we get a little further.
Yeah, that's fine. So to summarize this, is that, the former town manager hired somebody to, take all these codes and look them over and modernize them, make them all standard. Is that correct?
The
Is
very
that-
short version, but
Very
yes.
short, okay, all right, great.
Very
So what I would like to do is I would just like to take all the ordinances that we have, and while this process is going on, is I'd like each one of us to look at 4 or 5 of them, and just, let's think about whether we want these anymore, and when those come back, do they fit our needs, okay? Is kind of what I'm looking for. Because I feel like some of them are outdated, like, I was just looking at one, and it was adopted March 6, 1950. So, hopefully that they'll bring it up to date, but also I want someone to look at it as well, and, any ideas outside of this, I would appreciate it. And I'm just going to make this statement as well before, because I know there's going to be comments. Vinny and I, and I think the rest of us have talked a little bit here. One of the things that we do need to work on, and it isn't on here, and we're going to probably talk about this next, is that the finance procedures need to be overhauled. I mentioned that a little while back. And there are just so many things that we need to look at. And part of it is, in the personnel policy, and part of it is just in having a separate finance policy. Because I want to make sure moving forward that, no one doesn't feel like, we did something or behind anybody's back, didn't have the proper authority for it. And, it's something that we can't do everything, but we want to try to address as much as we can. My goal tonight on the ordinances, getting back to that, was to divide these up and have everyone just take a look at them while this project's going on. Someone just spoke up to the podium, so I'm going to let Tammy speak real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to, because there's quite a few of them. I just wanted to, there's multiple ordinances that I deal with that a lot of them are required by state law. And some of these are coming back to the council, like subdivision amendments. Kristen and I have those amendments ready to go whenever we can get on the next docket to make revisions to be in compliance with the new LDs. I think that there are some of these that I can suggest that 5 of them maybe don't need to be reviewed by any of the counselors, because like our building code pretty much says whatever the state law has, we adopt. Shoreland, state regulations, subdivision, that's a pretty heavy lift for one person to look at, and the whole council will be involved in that. So it's just a suggestion. I mean, if they all are interested in reading these, great. But a lot of these too will be going back to like You know, like I know the mobile home park one right now, there's things in there that aren't, it's not even legal.
Yeah.
That was going back for a rewrite to our town's attorney. Go ahead, Brett.
I was just going to say, so we are currently in the editorial and legal analysis phase with code, general code. So they're already doing the full editorial and legal review. So they are already creating a list of recommendations to say this is already not following state law, this is not compliant.
Okay.
So they're already doing all of that, and I'm anticipating to get that whole comprehensive list within about the next month to 2 months.
Okay, so I think what we
Yeah.
should do tonight, since we're here, I think we should divide up the list. When you get your list together, then the whoever
Yeah,
council member has
hang on.
it can look
Hold
at
on,
that.
Ann wants to talk.
Oh, yeah, Ann?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm comfortable with the council chair simply assigning us work to do without our having had a chance to discuss whether we even agree that it's a good idea. I mean, I think it's,
That's what we're talking about.
you know, we already have a consultant engaged in this process. I don't really feel the need to duplicate effort when we're moving into budget season and a lot of extra meetings and work. And there's you've already assigned us looking at the policies and doing a review on that for our April meeting. I know that everybody's, busy to varying degrees on their committees. I guess it's not clear to me what it is that we're supposed to, first of all, I guess I'm not clear on what it is our review is supposed to result in, and can we discuss that some more?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, Ann, I mean, all I'm trying to do is this, is that I just want to make sure that we are looking at everything that we can, all right? And that, we're going to have somebody outside look at it, and I'd also like to look at it ourselves. If people don't want to do it, that's fine. What my goal was tonight was to talk about the list. If people have interest in looking at it, great. If not, I have no problem doing it myself. But I felt like a lot of us have interest in certain things. And, like a minute ago on the what we just talked about, Charity said she would like to look at some things. Vince said he would like to look at some things. That's what they're going to do. They're going to look at them. I'm not assigning homework. Nobody has to do anything. I just want to make sure that we're doing the best job we can. That's all it is. And, when I started looking at this stuff, I was surprised at how old some of the stuff was. And I just thought it would be good to look at them and get different eyes on things. So,
I don't disagree with that, but I'm just, what I'm asking, Mike, is for some sort of template or list of things that we're supposed to be reviewing them for. Otherwise, various members could look at different things and we don't end up with a systematic review. Is it just this sort of impressionistic, like this one's too old, or this one, I don't like the way it's written, or what? I mean, are we expected to research state law and make sure that it's in conformance with state law now? Or, kind of what is the breadth and scope of the review that you're looking for from us?
good question. So, knowing that they're going to do the state law, they're going to do all that stuff. What I was hoping is that us counselors who know this town better than, the outside firms, is making sure it fit our feel. Okay, one of them was the, we can have strippers and we can have a strip club in Gray. Okay, do we want to have one?
I mean, but that's not an ordinance, right? That's language in an ordinance.
No, that's an ordinance.
Is it a strip club ordinance?
Yeah. So,
I mean, again,
that's my only point.
You're basically saying that, like, you personally are going to look at the ordinances and come back with whatever you feel like doesn't fit from your personal opinion. And I just don't, I'm not sure that makes sense to me, honestly.
Well, I guess what I was hoping for is that we looked at these and then we talked about them as adults and said, hey, does this make sense for this town? All right? And
So
I can do
what
it
are
all
the
myself,
criteria?
but I thought it would be
What are
nice
the-
if we, we all looked at
What are
things
the
differently.
criteria? can you list the criteria? I'm not comfortable with, spending time looking at them if I don't understand what it is I'm looking for.
I don't know what we're looking for till I read them. I don't know. I mean, instead of arguing about this, is there anybody else that would like to look at stuff? If not, that's fine. I'll look at it myself and make suggestions. If not, that's fine. I thought it would be good to kind of read them all over, but,
I will
May
help
I
you.
make a suggestion?
I will help you.
Yep.
Would it be possible, or maybe less time consuming, if we waited until we received the list of
Well,
recommendations
Yes,
from
I agree.
code,
Yeah,
general
so-
code? They're not going to change anything. It's
Yep.
just going to be a list of suggestions, and then that could be a good starting point of saying, Ken
so-
looks
so-
through questions 1 through 10. Benny looks
Yeah,
through
so my
20.
suggestion tonight was this, is let's wait until everything comes back, all right? But tonight, all I wanted to do was, since we're here, we're meeting, we've got them all, let's divide them up. When they come in, if you feel there's something to look at, you have them and to go from there. I was just trying to make things simple. Vince and I will talk offline, he'll take half, I'll take half, we'll just read them over when it comes in and see if it makes sense. That's fine with me. I'm good with that.
Well, I still don't understand what makes sense means in your mind. And so that's one question I still have. But long-term digital code management, Britt, can you just clarify what that means?
I'm sorry,
in the
I
context of
couldn't
the-
really hear you.
For general code, what does, you mentioned that part of their, part of their contract with us is to set the code, the ordinances up for long-term
Yeah.
digital code management. What does that mean?
So long-term digital code management, what I've opted for the town of Gray is a quarterly upload. And I can actually show you how another municipality is utilizing what we will be as soon as we are done with our project. Because not only are we doing ordinance review, we're also doing map link, which is something I'm actually very excited about. So I will actually share my screen. Yeah, all right, so this is general code. This is the list of all the states that they currently work with. So state of Maine, this is all of the current municipalities that have already gone live. They have, I believe I just spoke to the rep yesterday, and they have 14 other municipalities who have not gone live yet. So we are on that list. But, so for just the purposes of I'm going to share a municipality in Massachusetts called Watertown. Because even in this list of Maine municipalities, several of these are going to MapLink, just like we are going to, but none of their MapLink sites have gone live yet. So I just want to give you a little demonstration of what we're going to look like. So this is the city of Watertown. This is their quick homepage to their ordinances. If you click on their code, if it'll go, okay, I'll go here. So if you click on their code, it lists all of their ordinances right here on the left. So everything is right there. There you can see their ordinances regarding streets and sidewalks, moving buildings, and it goes through and it will update this. So it updates with the charter, the code number, chapter, subsections. So this way, everything is uniform, everything looks exactly the same, no matter what ordinance you're looking at, or if you have a question about business regulations, and everything is searchable. So say I just want to search for dog. It's going to pull up everything that pulls dogs. So I can see if I'm looking for nuisance dog, dangerous dog, dog licensing, dog license application, restraint of dogs. So anything that mentions the word dog will come up right here. So I'm not searching through, well, maybe it's in this ordinance or that ordinance. And this is for the public, so it makes it handy. If we have ordinances that we are updating, revising, or anything like that, because I've opted for quarterly updates, they will be put here in the notes section where you can see that things are being updated. This is if it's pending approval by council or has been approved by council, and it will be updated to say that, I don't know if theirs looks like that.
Britt, I think it would make sense when we get it all back to do a demonstration and put it on,
But I can also, okay.
I think, I like it, but I think, once it all comes back, we should make an announcement. It's a demonstration. This is how people look at it, because, it wasn't really on the agenda tonight to share this, and I know people are gonna wanna see it, like we talked about before the meeting. I think what I'd love to do is I'd love to do like a training session, maybe a workshop of how to use our website, and I think this would be part of it. Would be a good idea.
So to be clear, by the time that we get through all of this, we will have a different council by that time.
Okay, well, maybe, in April, we do a demo of how to use our website, and, and then we can show this as well at that point in time.
Okay.
Does that make sense? All right. Because we got to get to this executive session, we've got one more thing. I do have to give an update on the cost sharing committee. This update is provided for just informational purposes only. It reflects the status of the process as currently understood based on information that has been provided to date. It is not intended to assign fault, determine intent, or reach conclusions regarding any individual or entity. Last week, I was asked to provide an update on the status of the cost sharing committee. After making the inquiry, I was informed that the process is currently on a holding pattern. The superintendent contacted the state to request the names of individuals qualified to assist with mediation and research related to the cost-sharing formula. After multiple follow-up attempts, the state responded and advised that the requested information had previously been provided to Sue Fuller, who was serving in a leadership role with respect to the committee's work. The state further indicated that Ms. Fuller had represented that she had authorization to engage with a mediator and had repeatedly communicated with the mediator. As a result of those communications, the mediator has declined further participation in this matter and actually will no longer work with any towns. This information was not previously known. Upon its discovery, relevant email correspondence was requested and subsequently provided for review. It's also determined that Ms. Fuller has been using an email address associated with her former employer, Greeley. When Greeley was contacted, they were advised that they were not aware that the account remained accessible, as Ms. Fuller's employment with Greeley ended last year. Due to these circumstances, there is currently no mediator available or willing to engage in the cost-sharing process, and the process is therefore paused at this time. In addition, concerns have been raised by members of the public regarding the composition of the cost-sharing committee, including the involvement of individuals who initiated the petition. Specific concerns have been expressed regarding the continued participation of Judy Simino on the committee and whether that participation could affect the perception of impartiality. These concerns have been noted, however, no determination has been made. At this point, I am awaiting further directions from the town council, who is just being informed of this, and the school board of next steps, if any, and how this should proceed. And now we're opening it up for any questions, open discussion from any members. Is there anybody online that wants to comment? Questions? Anybody on the board have anything else?
Well, I came in at halfway through it, so
Oh, yeah.
I'll catch up to you later on.
Yep. So I am going to take a vote to close the meeting. Do I have a vote to close? We're going to go into executive session. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to go back to you kind of ended the ordinance review session without completing. If people are going to review the ordinances and the council wants to look at all of that, Kristen and I chatted before this meeting, and we were like, God, Like, we've read all of these things. I have to read them to know what ZBA does, and, you know, we can shorten this list pretty quickly of what you actually should be spending time on, so.
Well, just send it to us too, because we're
Yeah,
doing it.
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll look at it.
if, you know, if whoever's gonna be looking at these, you know, I mean, you're more than welcome to read all of them like I have, it's really fun, but you could, you know, like, you know, you could come in and, just to be more efficient, you know, meet with me and meet with Kristen, and we can
Could you
help
just
you go
let
through
the
this
two of us know
process.
which ones we shouldn't touch, and then we'll go over the other
Yeah.
ones?
Yeah,
All right,
we'll do
that's
that.
great.
We just want to make sure we have our eyes on it, that's all. And-
So,
And, you know, yeah.
Yeah, that's great, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Two things. Ann, do you know who the last company was that we used to hire our prior town manager, or Nate Rudy, what the name of the company was?
Yeah, both times we used Don Garish from Eaton Peabody.
What's it called?
Eaton Peabody.
Eaton Peabody, all right, cool.
But that's not the person
Yeah.
that did the background check, that was a separate individual, right?
Eaton Peabody does not exist anymore.
I mean-
Don Garish is on his
Yeah.
own. I have a list of folks that you can reach
Yeah, I
out
have
to.
those.
Okay, no problem, all right, I wanted to ask that. Okay, and then, here's the last thing I have that I want to touch base on, and I don't know if we need to do anything, or if we have an ordinance, I'm going to ask you, but obviously, you know, from watching the news, obviously, with everything going on in Portland and Lewiston with ICE, I would hope that, I don't know if there's something in place that if they happen to come to the town, how the town employees are supposed to support them and react and do what they need to do. And I just wasn't sure if we have anything in place that even remotely touches on that, or if we should be doing something with regards to that.
We can do something more formal. We circulated, we're members of the Sebago Lakes Region Chamber and the Portland Chamber.
Okay.
Portland Chamber did a phenomenal write-up with it, and so I circulated that to HR, who proceeded to circulate it to all staff. And there's guidance as to, if you're approached, what you need to do and who you need to reach out to.
Okay, could you just send like
I
maybe
can
a
send that
copy
to
of
the
that?
Yeah,
town
and-
council.
and
Yep.
ultimately, it's, you know, I mean, we can't stop anybody, it's
Right.
public, you know.
Yeah,
and,
I
you
just
know,
want to
so,
make sure
yeah.
we're not impeding or doing it, yeah.
All right,
Okay, perfect.
all right, so, we're
I'd like
now,
also to make sure that staff know that, you know, what's lawful for ICE to be doing and what's unlawful.
yeah, and there is
so I think
there is a thing from the chamber that, was sent out that, I'll have the sent to you, of what is lawful and what is lawful, that the chamber wrote up that has been disseminated. We'll make sure.
Because we know that they've been doing a lot of unlawful things.
Well, they've been doing a lot of
We're
lawful
going to
things
discuss
as
that
well.
tonight,
Let's-
but we're going to enter into executive
You
session.
need to adjourn this one.
What was that?
You need to adjourn this one.
Yeah,
and
I'm
then
trying to,
start
yeah. So, all right, so do I have
Motion to
a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
I motion.
Second, Ken. Everyone in favor? All right, so we are going to go into
No, you need
executive.
to call the executive session order now.
Oh,
It's a second meeting.
okay, I'm going to call it an executive session under whatever I did, and,
16E.
okay, what she said. Thank you.